Mason, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing good, brother. Just I got back from Kilimanjaro, Turkey. Been on a bender of travel in the world, so it's good to plant my feet a little bit and get back into work.
Yep. Yeah. So, how was the adventure? You were all over the place.
Yeah. So I mean, I was in Costa Rica in the beginning of December, and so it was just went into this. So it's like
Hmm.
I kind of consider it one giant blur of travel.
Hmm.
Costa Rica was next level. Did ayahuasca down there, so that was life changing, life awakening, I'd say. Um, and then yeah, Kilimanjaro. That was the hardest experience I've ever done in my life. So
Wow.
can't say I really recommend it for anybody unless you're prepped for the altitude sickness and the lack of oxygen and all the pain that comes with that. But I will tell you, like, the view at the top is one of those things where you look out and you see the clouds under you and all of Africa, and
Ooh.
it's like, wow, you realize how small most problems actually are.
Yeah.
It's like you look into the volcano of Kilimanjaro, the crater itself. You could put two cities in there, right?
Holy shit.
It is that big, right? And so it's like you're standing up there and you're looking at the scale of this thing, and it's massive. And then you realize how small Kilimanjaro is compared to Africa, and how
Mm.
small Africa is compared to the entire world, right? So it's like one of those things where you just zoom out and you're like, God, dude, everything is just so small. Like, we're just this tiny speck, you know?
Did you feel prepared to do it, or
I mean, did stair climber for a month. So,
hey?
I mean, I guess you could say mentally prepared for
Hell yeah.
sure.
What
Yeah,
made you
but
feel called to do it?
well, so my friend, he is an ex spec ops sniper from the Swiss military. Um, his name's Jan. So Arlen, Solbra, all those guys know Jan, but Jan's become a good friend of mine. Met him through Arlen, and yeah, he invited me about a month before. He's like, "Yo, we're climbing Kilimanjaro. You want to come?" So it's like, it's one of those things. You got the call to adventure. You got to go do that.
Oh yeah,
How many times do you do that in your life? Especially when you're
totally.
young. It's like, I mean, shit. When you do that when you're older, can you get to the top? I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things you gotta keep that in perspective. It's a hard thing to remember that like you have a very small window to do certain activities, and if you want to actually achieve them, you gotta make sure like you're doing those things when you're younger.
Yeah, dude. No, I mean, I think the advice of, save, 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 invest, invest, invest forever. Like, it's good advice for stacking your financial wealth, but
Yep.
it's like real wealth at the end of the day starts in the spirit and the mind,
Yes.
right? It's like if you look at, the Bible, right? I'm not a religious guy, but it's like I read the Bible and the principles in there are all true. And it's like if you look at King Solomon, right, when he was in a dream talking to God, God said, "I'll give you everything, anything that you want," right? And he said, "Tell me what you want." And King Solomon says, "Give me the knowledge and the wisdom to lead my people," right? And so the caveat of that was he got that. And then God also said to Solomon, he said, I'm also going to make you rich and famous and make you that dude, right? So he got all of those things as a byproduct. And the lesson in that is the real wealth comes from the spirit, and it manifests outwardly. And so it's like traveling, circling back around, traveling, having these experiences. That's what develops us to the point that we attract the external wealth anyway, right? So it's like you can do both at the same time. It's just realizing like you're not a product of your environment. You create the environment by who you're being.
Mm. It's an interesting conversation. I was having a talk with my friend Noah, and he had done ayahuasca a few times, and he said he wishes he waited until he was like already had a ton of financial success before he did it, because he could see for people how it would totally take away their desire for like earthly possessions and to accumulate wealth. And so it's an interesting thing, like focusing on the spiritual realm versus focusing purely on the material stack cash, try to do what you can to just get as rich as possible. It's an interesting balance there of how figuring out what to do with yourself.
That's really interesting that he said that, because, you know, my experience after the ayahuasca was I was more aligned with my business. Right. So it's like, you know, what I found with the ayahuasca is it just simply cuts out what's not aligned to your soul.
Maybe
right? So
it
like
wasn't
I see it
aligned
like,
for him. That's
I see it like a spiritual car wash, right? So it's like you go in and it sweeps you out from the inside, right? And it gets rid of all this gunk and all these beliefs that are false that we've had about ourselves, these limits, and you experience like our infinite nature. And, you know, if you're doing something that isn't aligned to your soul, I can see how if you're just doing real estate to stack cash or trading the stock market or, you know, pursuing cash for the sake of money, yeah, I can see how your insight would be like, you know, this isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. But it's like when you're aligned to something, like what I'm creating is aligned to my soul. That's why I did it in the beginning. You know, building a holistic supplement brand, you know, helping people wake up their mind, body, and spirit. And it's like, you know, that is alignment to me. So it's like, for me, I saw visions clearly. What I'm doing is my path. And then how to go even deeper with it, how to inject more love, you know, at a deeper level of what I'm creating. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are consuming when they consume anything, is the energy of love. And that was one of the visceral insights I had, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what keeps everything going. That's the energy of creation, of life force itself. Every breath we take is a breath of love and life, right? And it's like, you know, the Yahweh, name for God, is based on the sound of breathing. So it's
really,
yeah, Yahweh, right? And so it's like every time we take a breath and we're conscious of that breath, we're breathing in God.
That's a beautiful insight.
Yeah.
What made you initially feel called to do the ayahuasca? Was it something that you had been, because we see it now, like more and more people you hear on like Rogan talk about all these things. Was it something you kind of just always had this itch for, or was there something particularly that made you feel called to it?
So I had the opportunity come up like 3 times before since I was like 20. You know, I'm 25 now, but I never at the time, never felt that call. I was really scared of it too. You know, the thought of it being a drug and all that stuff, didn't have the perception of it being a medicine. And so, you know, one of my really good friends, he's like a little brother to me. Shout out to Ari Malloy. He's another holistic influencer. You would connect with this dude really well. Great friend of mine, friend for life. But so he was hosting this retreat in Costa Rica. And, you know, when Ari was hosting it, I was like, that's my boy. You know, he reached out to me. I was like, this is the universe calling me to do it. This dude, I love Ari. I got to go do it, bro. And so, you know, that was my call. I felt more comfortable with it, trusted it. You know, and also too, I think helping me make that decision was I have an experience of I've done, you know, mushrooms, right? And done experiences with that, done those milder things that, you know, help you transcend this reality and experience outside of it, but also just traveling the world in general, right? Like the action of traveling mentally, physically, and spiritually really opened me up to this call, right? So it's like, it's one of those things, dude, where ayahuasca is so, I wouldn't call it aggressive or hardcore, but it's very direct, right? And so like you can go in with an intention and telling what you want to the plant, but it's like a really wise grandma is going to be like, no, right? You have this little crevice in your brain that's pitch black. It's dark. You've paid no attention to it your entire life and you don't want to look at it, right? And so she's going to point you in there and say, we're going in here. And you're like, no, don't take me there. And so it's like, no, we're going there, right? And so it's a very direct thing that goes to what you need instead of what you want. So I definitely think like having that mental preparation, I'd say spiritual preparation and breaking down more of the mind is what allowed me to make that leap, quicker and with more faith, for sure.
Do you think it's going to be one of those things for you that was like Mason before this experience and Mason after this experience?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I saw what Mason is, right? So, God, dude, it's so hard to put into words. But like when you self-realize your nature and your oneness, and you can see how, this meat suit that we're walking around in, right? And being this me that we are, right? Like we say, I am Mason, I am Ryan. We realize we're not the name, we are the I am behind it. And that's all I can really say to put it into words, man. Because it's like, once you break out of the mind, there's no mental concept that can put it into words.
I get what you mean. I get what you're saying. It's like there's a quote in the Bible that I don't know the exact quote, but something along the lines of, or I guess the Buddhist quote of like, or the Taoist quote of, the Tao that can be explained is not the real Tao.
That's saucy.
That's it, right? Like it's just, we don't have words to put into context of the situation.
No, you can't, because it's not even a situation. It's just like, it's a knowing and an experience of the truth. And you have to feel that. You feel it in your soul when something's aligned,
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't call it entering this realm, but I'm going to. When you enter this realm, it's like everything is aligned, because it's all you.
Yeah. So what was your biggest takeaways from doing it? It seemed like it was a shedding for you more than anything else.
Bro. Oh, there's so many insights. So many insights. My biggest takeaway was a new relationship to fear. Right? And so, I could tell the whole story of both nights, but it takes forever. Right? So it's like, the first night, I'll shorten it. The first night was really about unconditional love. Like that's the lesson I learned in that first one. And
for yourself or for others or for both?
For everything. Right? And so basically like this whole night I experienced everything is all I can say. Right? And so when I go through this journey, I saw the lives of the worst and the best people to ever live. I saw the lives of Hitler, Alexander the Great, of Jesus, right? All extremes, right? Every single thing was here and created to fulfill a purpose of realizing its own nature, to see its own creative potential, right? And so, all of these things were put on this earth and they all led back to one single thing, which was love, right? The overarching thing is love, and creation itself is an act of that, right? And so like I clearly went on this journey of going back to source, right? And seeing oneness and experiencing oneness and losing myself in that process and just being absorbed in it, right? And so it's like this encapsulation of everything was almost like the entire universe that we perceive with our mind, all this stuff is like a lens, like that only exists out of the mind, out of the ego. All this only exists because the ego and the mind exist. Like as soon as we die, it's just the ego dying. That's it. Like life extends beyond this. The only life that we're perceiving is through the lens of this story that we have, and it's already pre-written, called the ego. I believe in destiny. But at the end of the day, my first night, I wrote down in my insight journal just one word, and it was love. Right. And so like I experienced love in its totality. But there was one vision that stuck the most out to me that night. And it was this one where I was a hunter, right? And I was almost like Orion, the hunter of the sky. And, I was Orion with this bow and arrow, and I'm aiming this bow between two trees. right? And between these two trees, a jaguar walks out. Right? And so I'm looking at this jaguar, and it slowly turns its head at me. It's looking me directly in the eyes. And so in this vision, I could communicate with it. It was almost like a telepathic communication, right? And so I asked this jaguar the way a Native American would honor what it's hunting. And I would say, can I hunt you? Can I kill you? Right? And so I asked this jaguar, and it just looks at me, and it slowly nods its head. It goes like that, like, kill me. Right? And so on that, I release the arrow, and I shoot this jaguar, and it like explodes into this energy that surrounds me. And I became one with this jaguar. Right? And so, there was that. And there was another thing. That day I was like kind of agitated before the ceremony, as we were going on this hike. It was a small group of like 5 of us who did it, but I was agitated on this hike, going barefoot, getting my feet freaking stabbed by rocks and all this stuff. And so, when we're out there, we do some breath work, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden my feet just start getting chomped by ants. Like, dude, it was like getting stabbed, right? So I'm like, walking away from this. I'm like, God, dude, what the? I'm done. I'm going back. Yeah. I'm done with this shit. So I go back, and I'm there, and Ari he's like, what were the ants trying to tell you, right? And so I was thinking about that.
What a great perspective.
Yeah. And so when I was in that first night ceremony, I had a visual too of I was literally like laying on the ground. I was one with the jungle, right? After swinging through the trees as a monkey and slithering on the ground as a snake, and being one with the jungle and all of these timelines and lives that have come before, laying on the ground, and these ants start to walk up on my body and cover me, and they started to like hug me. And I realized in that moment, my insight was nature and everything around us is just simply reflecting our internal state. Right? So my agitation came back as getting bit. Right? My agitation, I was feeling these little ants are like little radio transmitters. That's how they do all these incredible things. They chomp me, right? Because I'm all annoyed, right? But it's like when I'm in this state of love, I saw that's what I got back. That's what the universe was delivering back, because it's all a mirror. And that's the only way that the ego can conceptualize or exist at all, because it has to relate to something, right? Because it's like we're born into separation as an ego. We lose this totality, and we become this point of separation that has to relate to things. Like I relate to this, the way I pick it up, fast, probably aggressive, slow, I'm probably chilled out, and we relate to each other. It tells us more about ourselves. And so we're in this massive mirror, right? But yeah, that's like, those are the 2 biggest things I learned from that. But the second night, dude, it was different. All right. So that second night, I'm going into this, we drink the ayahuasca again, and there's about like a 45-minute period of just silence and meditating in the quiet. You're outside, you're in this like gazebo thing, jungles around you. So you're surrounded by nature. It's beautiful, but you're like waiting for it to kick in. Right. And so I had the expectation, which is the problem. Like you can't go in with expectations because no one's the same.
Yeah.
No one will ever have the same experience as me. But you've already had the same experience as me because we're the same. So that's a whole different topic. But anyway, I'm in this meditation for like 45 minutes, and I start to feel this feeling of like angst, right? And anxiety, kind of like fear, a little bit of panic, right? It felt like what a panic attack feels like when it comes on, right? And so I'm like, this is weird. And I'm in this visual where I see this like concrete floor in front of me, and about like 10 feet behind it is just this infinite black going backwards. And so this blackness is like slowly coming closer to me. And every time it gets closer, I start to feel more of these emotions, of these negative emotions, right? And inside of this blackness, every now and then I'd see a panther kind of weave in and out, right? And so this thing is getting closer and closer. And it's one of those things like where we talk about unconditional love and how unbounded it is. I was experiencing in that moment, bro, literally the complete opposite. Like it was infinite fear to the infinite degree. And it just kept speeding up and getting worse. And so it's like everything I ever feared in my life, you know, losing my business, losing relationships, you know, death itself, like all of these things were just clouded up into this one ball and energy of fear, right? And so like, dude, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, fear of rejection, whatever it is, all in one, underlying all of that is the fear of death and death of the ego. That's another topic too. But anyway, this fear energy is getting closer and closer. I'm starting to freak out, right? And so, you know, at this point, I feel like I need to tell Mario or something, the shaman, because he's like, if there's any issues, like call out. You know, I felt like I need to say something, but I just didn't too, because like all these people around me were going through their experience. I didn't want to ruin that for them, right? So I was like, I'm just going to bite the bullet and just, you know, hopefully I get through this, right? And so it got to the point, it was so paralyzing, bro. I couldn't even try and ask for help if I want. I'm probably sitting there like wincing like this, right? And it gets to a point where this panther mouth comes out of nowhere and it opens up. And right before it hits me, I'm like feeling the feeling of impending doom. You know, you felt that before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. And so I feel that and it bites down on me. And in that moment, it's like TV static, right? So it's like, right? And so I shoot to nowhere. I do have an ego death in that moment, but it goes deeper and I'll get to that. I shoot off, right, into this realm. Call it a realm. I drew it. I call it the realm of self, right? So I'm this little point of awareness and all of these eyes are going off in different directions, right? So all around me are these eyes. And I was this point of awareness, an I, you know, as in the I am, right? And so I would go into each of these eyes and I would become a me. So I would become a Mason or Orion or Alexander the Great or Jesus or Hitler. And I was going through all these timelines, bro, literally experiencing all of them, right? And so I would come in and I would see that all of these me's are these pre-created lenses that we're perceiving reality out of. We're perceiving a reality out of, with all of these breadcrumbs that are laced into it to make us realize our own nature in its own unique way. Right? And so, you know, dude, there's so many insights from that night that I could go into. But like I come back, you know, after kind of getting back grounded into my body, still going through it hard, right? I don't know what the time was, but Mario was above me and, you know, he's like, are you okay? And I caught awareness of my body. I felt like I came into like a spacesuit, right? I felt like a child that discovered themselves for the first time. So I'm like laying off to the side of my mat and my head, I was like on the wood floor, right? And so I'm like looking at my hands. I'm like,
just getting back to it.
I'm like, I'm a human. Like it was one of those things. It's like I just became something.
Yeah.
Like there was this different connection to Mason of I had awareness of the soul inside of this suit, right? And so what happened in that moment, bro, was when I had that moment where the fear hit me and killed me, in real life, even my friend Brian, who is next to me, right? Shaman, all these people in the front, Ari, in the physical realm that we're experiencing right now, my body apparently resurrected out, right? Crucified out. I looked like I got electrocuted and I shot back and I smacked my head on the wood floor. And dude, I legit, I realized I died. Like I physically died. And that, like my heart, everything, boom, gone. Like I was out, bro. Like died. It's like, I don't know how else to say it other than I
Yeah.
died, and I felt the ultimate feeling of losing it all. I
And
watched
what that would be
everything
like. Yeah.
everything wiped away. And so it's like, I come back. There was so much more that happened that night, so many other insights, but the biggest lesson from those two experiences was they both ended up at the same place of oneness, right? Going through ultimate love and ultimate fear ended up at the same place. And so I realized, one, that jaguar from the first night was showing me in the second night how to die with honor and with
Whoa.
courage and with love, right? So this thing kills me. It was my turn to take the death bullet or whatever it is, right? And so I had to go through the feeling of how to die and accept the nature of fear and death itself. And by doing that, by accepting the nature of fear and death, I overcame it with love, right? And so what I came back from this with was I understand what Jesus Christ went through on the cross at a deeper level. Because I started reading the Bible, I was getting into it, and then I realized that is a guide for how we live our lives and how we fight fear.
Mm-hmm.
We carry our own cross, we accept the nature of fear and death itself, and then we overcome it through the act of love for those around us, right? And surrendering to that. And so, I have a deeper connection to, what's said in the Bible now. It has a deeper understanding and meaning because, one, you have to go through these experiences to even know, right? Totally. It's like you can go to church all day, you can read all day, but until you actually go through an experience, you will never learn the lesson. Experience is the best and only true teacher that you receive wisdom instead of just knowledge, right? And so, going through that, I have a deeper understanding and perspective, and I really know what it's about. And it's like now I'm able to communicate these lessons and convey and communicate what love actually is and how we embody it and how to use it, right? And it's changed. It didn't change my life. I just got a new one.
Have you ever heard of the book, The Immortality Key? Oh, dude, you're going to love this.
It's good? I'm writing it down.
The Immortality Key. So it's about the connection between Christianity and psychedelics. And it's so part of the book, it opens up by talking about the mysteries at Eleusis. And this was in ancient Greece where the select individuals, the highest class, the philosophers, the kings, they would do this like 7-day pilgrimage to the mysteries at Eleusis. It was an unmarked place. No one knew about it outside of them. And they would go there to experience God, is how Aristotle put it. And when Aristotle got back from his experience, he wrote, the only way you know God is to experience God. And it's fascinating how that it's just the same thing, like the exact same thing as what you're saying is the same thing that Aristotle was talking about all those years ago when he had probably a similar experience. It's
timeless, man. It's like these timelines we experience are just all in the mind. And it's like once you shed the layer of this skin and physical reality, you see. It's almost like an Interstellar where he's in the wormhole and you see all these timelines, right? It's like that. You are and were and will be everything at some point, right? And you're this ocean that's experiencing itself as a single wave, right? And it's like the wave is not the ocean in totality, but the ocean is the wave. So it's like God is in us, but our Mason, our Ryan is not God. I think a lot of the New Age world gets caught up in that, and it's a trap, right? You get this spiritual ego.
I was going to bring it up, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you're like, I am God. It's like you're not God, but you're God. It's like there's something behind that, and it's like most people don't even have awareness of that. The ego tries and claims God because it knows that it doesn't exist in the first place.
Whew. I mean, I love talking about this topic. It's so fascinating to me for the reasons why, like what you're explaining. Because if you, when you're going back to like the church thing, and there's just there's such a purity in experiencing these realms and realities, and um, there's a connection back to source that you can't get in any other regard. And just hearing these stories, it's mind blowing. Like it's just like you almost can't believe it's reality that you can experience something like this.
It's mind blowing because it gets rid of your mind, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Like we lose the mind, we transcend it. So it's like
Oof.
you can't conceptualize it because there's nothing to conceptualize.
Mm-hmm. So how is so in that time period since then, how do you think it's changed like your actions in the world? Have you noticed a tangible difference in just the way you interact with the world?
For sure. It's more about, and that was the unique thing, right? So, um, before I went, I've really been diving into this journey of what it means to be sovereign, like at a true soul level,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I started taking this course, to really understand. I don't remember how I found it, but it just ended up in my perspective. So it's like I'm getting it. It resonated with the soul. Right? It's called the Sovereign's Way. Um, yeah, it's really unique. But there's so much just truth in this, right? And so, I went through it, and there's a workshop that I'm actually going to in the end of March in Scotland, right? To like learn how to embody these principles in there. It's about the art of relating, right? And so here's the crazy thing. That's how you know the soul is timeless. I signed up to that before this ayahuasca retreat, right? I didn't realize I would go into that and learn what relating even meant. Going behind the veil of the ego and learning how it has to relate with other things to
Mm-hmm.
understand its own nature, and how the soul is using it as a vehicle to reflect itself out into this reality, right? And so I come back and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I I understand why I signed up for this workshop, and I didn't at the time, right? And so it's
Isn't that
like,
so weird? It's
yeah, and
crazy.
so it's like now I'm going over to Scotland at the end of March to learn how to fully embody all of these truths,
Yeah.
the truth that I experienced, and bring it into this to create that healthy ego that is aware that behind it is the soul,
Mm-hmm.
right? Using it as a tool, and to really step into that man,
Mm-hmm.
a man, a sovereign man, that version of myself that's aligned to that truth, right? And so that's what I'm really excited for. But it's definitely changed, my relationships with my parents, my girlfriend, um, my business, like how I put love into my products, the purpose of it, all of these things. It's really just given me a new lens that's taken me way deeper and more connected to the soul. And it's like once you do it, like you come back into society. Obviously, when you're out in Costa Rica, no phone,
Yeah.
shoes, no shoes, right? And you're connected to nature, like you have that afterglow. But it's like when you come back to, say Tampa or the US, you'll start to feel the weight of society a bit,
Yeah.
right? So it can take you out of it. But it's like one of those things, it for the rest of this life,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like it's never gonna go away. And I've seen this unseen realm, and I've experienced it. And so it's like there's just this whole new perspective on life. And the cool thing about that experience was that was a journey to climb the mountain inwardly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I
Yeah,
just
that's
climbed the
so
mountain
cool.
outwardly. So it's like getting the whole eyes above, so below thing going on.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, I it's fascinating how we have those like subconscious almost behaviors or things that you do that you don't realize why you did them initially, like you signing up for that course. And then later on in hindsight, you're like, oh shit, like this
Hmm.
is exactly what I needed to be signing up for. It's blows my mind. Like I see it I kept a journal for a super long time, and recently, like looking back at it, I'm like, oh shit, this was a kid who like really wanted to start a podcast, but had
Right.
no idea that he wanted to start a podcast. Like,
Right.
but you can see it. You could see it in the hindsight. It's such a beautiful thing when you can see those things, and you just kind of know you're on the right path.
For sure. It's I mentioned earlier how I believe in like destiny now.
Yeah.
And it's like when we're born, we have all these beliefs and stuff inputted into us. Right? They're pre-programmed. And so we go our entire life, our first like 7 years of our life making these unconscious choices. Right? But that's like we start to become a little more conscious and we start choosing, what we want, but it's like where did we make that choice off of? And it's from a previous belief that's been developed. So it's like every choice we've made up until this moment was already pre-chosen because we were already a certain person that was going to choose it, right? That's been developed off of past choices, right? So it's like everywhere we go, it's like, all of these things, we're going on this timeline where we're continuously choosing and becoming aware of our thought patterns and waking up. But it's like, what was the choice that we made that made us choose going down the route that wakes us up to our ability to choose?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, that was a choice on its own. Right. So it's like you go down this continuous path where from this ego, we think we're in control, but it's like, we're not. We're only in control of these perceptions of these paths that we're going down. Yeah. And it's like we choose a bad path or a good path, but it's like when you go down the bad path, you learn a lesson that orients you to the path that was aligned to truth anyway. Yeah. So it's like we're picking these paths we want to go, but it's like you look at a role-playing game, they end up at the same main story. It's like you can go all these side quests, you can choose to be good or bad. Maybe the ending is a little bit different, but it's like you're still most likely standing in pretty similar location, if not the same. Right. So it's like there's only a few paths that are there to choose from at the end of the day. And it's like, they were all written inside of your soul.
I mean, it's a truth. And the interesting thing about it is so often it's like those very negative, the times in your life that you see it as purely an obstacle or purely just you can't find any good in those situations is what makes you aware of the path or is what puts you on the path. Like right. It's weird how it's almost that the negative moments more than anything else that cement that for you.
It's ironic too. That's the ones we tell people about.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what we tell people about. That's what people want to hear about. No one cares about how we're flexing our Lamborghini and all that. Like, the ego cares, but it's like, the people, you don't connect with that. Yeah. Like you connect to the hard choices and the failures and the lessons and the knowledge. And it's like, it can come from personal gain. Sure that people want to hear that, but it's like also too, knowing that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like the ego wants to be different. It has to be. That's the only way. It's like we're programmed to spot differences. Right. So it's like, when we're before civilization, it's like if we're out in the woods and we notice like some tracks, right, on a path, we notice that it grabs our attention because we're like, oh, that could kill us. Yeah. So it's like we're programmed to do that. And so we look for differences. But it's like, when we find someone who's different like us, that's when we connect. Right. So it's like we are
got your same type of different. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's where you get groups like goth people or athletes. Right. It's like we're different from people, but we're the same.
Yeah. That's a beautiful analogy or beautiful connection because it's there's so much truth in it, and the fact that like we try to be so individual and so different, but then at the same time, it's like we connect so deeply to those that are most similar to us.
That's why it's just all an illusion, It's like, our soul wants connection. It's just the ego doesn't know. The ego doesn't even know what that looks like. That's the funny thing. Like it couldn't even create it.
It's fascinating. I mean, so you mentioned this course you're doing in Scotland. Do you have any idea of essentially what you're going to be doing?
Zero idea. It's just about the art of relating,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like gonna be there, learn from this guy. He put it together. Just he's someone I consider a master of what it means to be a man.
Mm.
I don't know how else to say it other than that, but it's like there's this energy that you can feel it and you can sense it.
Just a
I'm
strong
like,
masculine presence, like
yeah, not
the
even like
Godfather.
masculine presence as much as like you feel the God presence,
Mm.
right? So it's like I want to, I not embody that, but awaken it because it's inside of me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it brings that resonant field out where it's like you align to this frequency and it brings you up. And so just going there and learning what it means to relate is dude, I don't know. Just like so much, there's so much sauce that's been released for this dude. I'm like,
You don't even know.
it's hard to put in your mind, you know?
It's the word, like what it is to be a man. Like it's become so bastardized, and like in the modern world, we don't even really know how to define what that even is. Like, what is masculinity? What is masculinity in its truest form? It's and then even thinking about it for myself, it's like it's not the clearest thing to know exactly what that looks like.
It's all this definition, you know? It's like, again, it's the same as you can see how everything connects. Our life path, like we're making all these decisions that were already pre-made. It's the same as this. Our definition of what it is has come from past experiences. You know, maybe
Exactly.
either a void or something that we had, you know? So it's like
We're relating to somebody else and using that as our
everything's relating, bro. That's the art. Like the only art that matters in life is this art of relating. And it tells you more about yourself than anything.
It's so interesting. One of like the first kind of wake up moments for me in terms of just this path of like self-improvement and gaining this sense of awareness was I had to go to a TED Talk for extra credit my freshman year of college. And it was from this scientist who wrote a book called Mindsight, and it was on what separates humans from every other animal, and it was being able to relate. It was that chimpanzees couldn't put themselves in the other person's shoes, and no other animal had the ability besides for humans to know what it would be like to be like them. And I don't know why it made such an impact on me. I guess for the same reason, because that is everything. That is what it means to be a human. It's just how you relate to everything.
That's all it is. It's like, even, dude, there's so much sauce that they catch. There's so much stuff they catch you in, right? Like even the language, human, right? Like if you break down what it means, I could go into this. I'll be called a conspiracy theorist for it, but it's like if Black's Law Dictionary, all these things people talk about of language and, you know, maritime law, and it's like, yeah, whatever, they're out there, but it's like they don't have that much weight or power, but it's like until you feed into it, they do. So it's like human, right? So like it's saying a hue, like a hue, a color, we're a different color of man. So it's like when we call ourselves humans, we're taking on this like different terminology that's part of this different. Oh God, I could do hours and hours on this.
Dude,
And
it's a fascinating conversation.
It's part of this, but it's like going into the legal system versus the law of mankind, right? So it's like we are mankind. We're not humans. I've said it. It's hard to break the habit because we say it our whole lives, but it's like we're men and women, right? We're not sovereign men. We're not humans. We're none of these things. We're men and women, and we're mankind together. And that's it. It's like we take all these labels and we put these labels on it that cake our ego up and give it this belief of what it is. So when you break it up, we're just men and women. But yeah, like still, like what is a man? You know, it's we define that.
Yeah,
We define it.
relate. Yeah,
Yeah, we, and that's where you really like noticing. You have to notice and have awareness of this relation to other things that we're unconsciously doing all the time to even make that choice and decide what a man is. right? Or even become aware of what a man is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not something you do. It's not something that you embody. It's just something you already are, right? And it's just bringing that to the surface and radiating it outwardly. And it's really just at the end of the day, embodying love, right? Like love and truth in its complete nature, right? And just allowing that only into your field, being in complete alignment with those truths inside and out.
Yeah. And we just fall victim to temptation and fall out of that. And
Yeah.
it's so seductive, so easy. It's like the path to that love is littered with so much difficulty, whereas the path that's littered to the opposite of love, I don't know if that would be hate or what exactly, but that opposite path is littered with so much ease and temptation and pleasure. And it's like, it's so hard to stay true to that path.
It's hard. It's fear.
It's
you
fear.
know?
I guess
fear.
So.
Fear's the opposite. It's like, that's what another insight I had from the ayahuasca is like, if you look at like Satan in the Bible, if you break down the roots of what Satan was, and it was Latin or Greek, I forget, but the Satan means the opposition, right? So the opposite. And so it's like, God is the sovereign creator of everything. Couldn't he snap his finger or whatever he's got and destroy Satan? Absolutely. But Satan, that opposition, that dark energy, it's still here. Why? Because it's allowed to be here. And so what it does is it sets us up on this path where those temptations are there. Without the temptations, you would not learn how to align yourself consciously with the truth.
And there wouldn't be any meaning or purpose to anything, because it would just be the path. Like
that would just be the path. That's it. And it's like when we're born in, you hear in the Bible, we're born into sin. We're born into separation. We're born into this me, right? We separate from totality and we're born into a me that's separate, right? So it's like we've done this little thing where we separate off and I'm Mason and you're Ryan and, we're all these little shards of truth, right? But it's like, inside of that, in the separation, you also get a taste of that darkness, that opposition, right? And so it's like we have a choice. And so every time you feed into the temptation more and more and more, it's just feeding the ego more and more and more, right? And so it's the more you feed that ego, the more you feed that false belief of who you really are. And that's why we get so far away from God and truth and our life falls apart, because we're just putting on more and more layers. It's like, if you put a t-shirt on and you put a long sleeve on and you put a cardigan or then a jacket and another jacket, eventually you get to a point you can't feel your own heartbeat, right? So it's like that's the same thing as what the ego does when we're constantly giving into temptation or sinning or doing these pleasure-seeking external experiences. We're adding on all this layer of muck and crap where it's like, eventually you can't feel your own heartbeat and your own soul, right? So it's like those completely separate you from the truth if you let them. And it's just, you got to make that choice not to, for sure.
I mean, it is the absolute truth here. And Mason, I'm going to be remiss if we don't talk a little business, because there's so much I want to pick your brain on in that regard. I just started my first e-com company, so
good for you.
I got a lot of stuff I want to pick your brain on. But in that realm, how have you how did you even get started on the path of e-com and got into that world to begin with?
So my sophomore year of college, I had just left football. That's really like what set me on my spiritual path too.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with baseball.
Oh yeah. Just end in like a day, or how did yours go down?
Very similar, like sophomore year of college, stop playing. And then you're just like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah. Yeah. You enter that black hole, but, so I didn't know what to do with my life. As the first taste of what an ego death is since my entire life. I was a football player, right? There was no idea of what Mason actually was, right? And so I'd always just been, I am what I do instead of I am what I am. Right. And so, at that point I was looking for something, and I had this Alex Becker ad come up on YouTube, and ended up getting his course and learning drop shipping. And so, I did a few stores, wasn't getting any luck, getting sales. But then finally I had one with like an epiphany, and I set this one up in a day. And overnight I woke up, dude. I was like, I saw money on my phone. It was like that red pill moment where like, I just broke out of the major. I'm walking to class at college, made like freaking $150. I'm like, I'm rich, baby. Let's go. Yeah. And so,
I make money when I sleep.
I made all those bands in my sleep, bro. I'm dreaming of cash. So, yeah, like I just kind of scaled that up a little bit, learned more about drop shipping, ended up getting a copyright strike on that product, which was interesting. It was a pin, right? It was Stan Lee's face on it. And I was selling these things. I was getting them for like 89 cents and selling them for $13.99. Right. And so I was making racks with this because I marketed it at the time the new Avengers was coming out. And so it was like a tribute to him.
Nice.
Right. And so I got my first taste of that. Stopped doing it after, that one thing shut it down. Did a couple more, like tried a lifestyle brand. At the time too, I was a pleasure seeking monkey. I was just freaking drinking my ass off, chasing hookup culture stuff, like you name it, right? So separated from myself. And so like that was my first taste. Looking back at the time, I started doing lifestyle brands around my interest, right? So I built this one brand called Down to Darty, right? It's a date party brand, right? I wanted to be like the new Dan Bilzerian. So I had like Darty girls and all this crap. But I just didn't do much with it at all. And so, after that too, there was a point I got banned off of Facebook ads, which is still, that freaking account is still off after like 4 or 5 years.
Damn.
Dude,
what that caused a huge headache?
Yeah. What they're doing with people, I mean, there's other ways to deal with it, but it's like, what they're doing with people is wrong. But anyway, yeah. So had that e-com experience, knew how to brand, knew how to create something, products, you name it. But it's like, for a few years, I didn't really know what to do because I couldn't do Facebook ads. And so like I wasn't on TikTok yet.
See, another thing goes back to the obstacle being the way, dude.
Yeah, 100%.
So interesting.
100%. Yeah. And then so like March of 2021, I'd gone through a massive self-improvement journey, got freaking, dude, yoked. Like most I've ever been in my life within like 10 weeks, 11 weeks. I was UFC ready, bro. It was legit. But then I was like, yeah, I'm going to start getting on TikTok because I had this massive fear of like exposing myself, right? And just like speaking in front of people. I give speeches in class and like awards I won, and I just like black out from the anxiety and shit. And I just couldn't do it, bro. I don't even remember them. And so it's like, in college too, I took a theater class to help me with this. And it's like, when COVID happened, I ended up, it went from like in person, right, where I was still like struggling and like getting that paralyzed fear, to more so voice acting. So my face wasn't on it. And I was killing it there. I ended up amazing. I was like the best voice actor in the class because I was scared of being seen. And so that's like why I got into TikTok. I was like, I got to get over this crap.
Yeah.
And so, I did it for a bit, finally had one video get like a decent view count. It was like 4,000 views. And I was like, I went viral. I was like, I'm viral, And so I was like, I saw some potential there. And so I started just documenting my life. And I was like, when I create, I have to make a promise to myself. I'm going to just do it around authenticity, right? At the end of the day, that's what my whole brand is about, just being authentic and real, saying what I care about, my beliefs, my opinions, the way I see things. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. And so I built it off of that. When I graduated college, I ended up, I had a little like tiny coaching business, a few clients since I'd done the self-improvement thing.
Yep.
I
And
moved back.
you were teaching self-improvement or
Yeah,
TikTok organic?
it's like fitness transformation,
Got you.
mind, body, spirit transformation. And so at the time, I had to move back into my parents' basement because it's like, I'm not getting a job. I'm not doing that.
Feel that.
I can't work for people. And so, I bit the bullet, went home. They didn't really want me there. I appreciate them doing it.
Of course.
Paid some rent to live in my own bedroom, which is, a lesson I'm grateful my dad did looking back because it gave me that urgency. But, like for 4 or 5 months, I wasn't really doing much other than this building my personal brand on TikTok. And then it got to a point where I was just like getting so frustrated, bro. And I wanted to build something real. And so it's like I had this idea of building a movement. And, anyway, it became the Stampede Network, right? I was like, I'm going to do something that really resonates with me. So I started trying to do programs. I started clothing, all this stuff. But I wasn't really selling it, and I wasn't that good of a marketer yet, right? And so a few more months of that, I was losing my mind, right? Sitting on my computer, staring at this freaking wall in the basement for like 7 months, bro. And I'm just like, I got sick so many times just from not being outside, being in Ohio, like all these elements. It's just, It was sucked. But then, I finally had an epiphany. I was like, I need to give my market, my audience what they want. And I realized that was supplements. And I had a stigma against it because the industry sucks. Yeah. And so I was like, if I do it, I'm going to do it the right way and lead off with the 3 T's, which is truth, trust, and transparency. Right. And so do that, make it cool, use my personality and all that stuff in it. It's going to really resonate. Right. And use my story of transformation to inspire people. And so, I ended up looking up things to source and eventually fell upon Bee Bread. Right. And so, that's where I discovered Bee Bread, got in touch with them, got samples sent out. I was like, I love this. I sampled it for a month. I love this. I'm going to put this out. I was around $500 left. Right. So I was like, I have nothing to lose. Right. Yeah. And so, I ended up getting this product sourced, had a small amount, and I list this on my store called Spartan Bee Bread. I put out like a pre-order type thing on my site, and then I make a video, asking my following, like about pre-order is coming out soon for this thing. Right. And then, a week after that, I still hadn't put any videos out promoting it. But then there was finally like one night, dude, where I had enough. I was like, God, I need a sign, bro. And so I see this video, which is really cool. I'll explain what happened after. But I see this video by David Meltzer, and he's talking about how he's given so much, but he wasn't receiving. He's talking to his mom, right? He's telling the story. And she's like, well, David, you have to literally ask the universe and tell it that you're open to receiving. And so it was like an epiphany moment. So it was like the first time I'd really like gotten down and prayed to God. And I was like, listen, guy, I surrendered to you. I am fully open to fulfilling my purpose. I'll do whatever is needed, become the person. I'm at your disposal. Just give me a sign. Right. And so it's like, go to sleep on that note. And I wake up the next day and I have this feeling to go record. Right. So I get up, just put a hoodie on and my freaking underwear. I take Bee Bread into my bathroom. Right. And I have this thing in front of me, the package, and I hit him with the OG hook that was talking right to my audience. So I was like, if you want to be a Greek god, a Spartan, any of those things, you've got to try this. Yeah. And so I put that out, bro. And I throw my phone on my bed after posting it because I was like, in the video, I was like, yeah, the pre-order's out next week. And so I throw it on my bed and I sit on my like couch. I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. I'm a supplement guy now.
Were you embarrassed? Were you?
I didn't know what to think. Okay. But then 5 minutes later, it didn't matter because I hear this one noise that I hadn't heard in a long time, which was the Shopify ding.
Hey.
And so I'm like, what? And so I go over and I look, I'm like, someone bought something. And I go check it. I'm like, that's the Bee Bread? I'm like, what? Did I leave the pre-order off? And I checked. I was like, I didn't even have the pre-order on. I just opened up the product. So I was like, okay. interesting. That's got to be a fluke. No one else is going to buy.
Yeah.
So put it down. 5 minutes later, I hear ding again. I go over, I'm like, what? I'm like, the video must be doing good. And I was checking it. I was like, oh shit. I've like already like 500 views, almost like 1,000 views. I was like, I'm starting to get momentum. I put it back down. And then I hear 2 dings. Ding, ding. I'm like,
Hey.
what? And I go over and I look at videos getting more traction, right? It's like 1,500 already. I'm like, what is going on? And I put this thing down, bro, within 5 minutes, it was freaking money printer. It's like, brrr, it's rolling. I'm like, what is going on, dude? And like, I forget what the time frame was. It had to have been 20 minutes. This thing was already close to like 10,000 views, right? And it was ripping, bro. It was flying.
That's so sick.
In a single day, this video hit 2 million views, and I sold, because there's no one we at the time. I sold almost like $25,000 worth that single day.
Nice.
Right? All organically. And so I was like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing that ever happened. But then I get on a call with the supplier and they're like, we have a problem. I'm like, what? They're like, well, you have over 1,000 orders, but we only have 50 units. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And it's like, I had 2 options in front of me. I let this thing run and easily let it hit 150K in sales in a day. Easy, bro. The momentum was disgusting. It was absurd. Like the video kept, when I hit that 2 million view thing, like when I hit the 23K mark, I don't know where the video is at, but it was probably like 100,000 views. Mm-hmm. Right? So it would have ripped.
Yeah.
Right?
10x,
and then
20x.
Crazy. Shit. And so I had to either choose to let that happen and then try and fulfill them and get more supply for like 4 months, 3 months, or I just shut it off there and I fulfill for like a month. Right? And so I made the decision to shut it off and I put like an email list sign up. Right? And so I ended up getting a bunch of emails for the next batch. Spent the whole month of December cleaning up. But then like once January hit, dude, I just started spark adding that same video. And then I just started trying to scale it as much as I could. I ran broad campaign and just targeted nobody. And this thing was pumping like 3K a day in sales.
Whoa. And
so I was like starting to make all this money, bro. And I had this cash flow finally. Checked out Miami for the first time, but it's like while I was out there, the sales were going down because I hadn't made any new banger videos like that. So I was like freaking out. And then it got to the point where, you know, I needed help with the ad side of things. And so luckily my team, who we just went separate ways, they're building their own brand now, but they were with me 2 years and I'm so grateful for them. Amazing dudes. Shout out to Nolan and Sean, but yeah, like they came on at the perfect time, took over the ad accounts. We leveled out and then started scaling up. And that's like, I had the knowledge of how to scale. I just needed the cash flow. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, now that I had the jet fuel, I knew what to do. And about a little over 2 years later, here we are. And we've done in last year. So 2022, we ended with like about 650K in sales. Last year, we ended up at 3.5 million. This year, we're setting it way higher.
Oh, dude, I love the story for so many reasons, but for one, just the understanding that like problems fucking arise in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Like shit happens and it's all about just resiliency and staying in the game and just figuring it out on the fly. So I think that's such a good lesson for people to hear. And then two, it sounds like the major takeaway I got, I would be curious if you would agree on this, is know your target market, like know who you're positioned towards, who you're trying to get, because then you could speak right to them.
Yeah. It's like you have to know one, their desires before they even do. Mm-hmm. Right. But it's like people buy from people. Right. So it's like, me being the face of the brand, has changed everything. It's like why you see people like Carnivore MD or Liver King or,
Yep.
Conor McGregor, The Rock, Kylie Jenner. Like, it's going that direction because people buy from people and they resonate the most with them. And that's where you get all this organic traffic, right? Because that's how you build trust and you build a community of people who share the same interest as you. And so, that's for me. I just talk to people in the way I would in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, I didn't try and get them to buy anything for like 7 months. And so when I finally put out the opportunity for them to give it back, they did. Cause it's like karmic law plays into this. Like the more you give into someone, give, there's that subconscious desire to balance out karma, right? Cause it's like karma is the thing that keeps everything going. If I'm constantly stacking karma, after a while you feel that weight. That's why you feel like you can have a lot of weight on you when you're like taking from people all the time. You want to get rid of karma and you want to move it along, and it's constantly trying to balance itself out. So it's like when you constantly say, here, take this, here, take this, here, take this. After a while, someone's holding all this stuff and like, all right, take some of it back, And so that's like where money exchange happens.
Totally.
Right.
It's a great takeaway, and it's so true in the creator economy, especially with when you're just so familiar with people. Like you said, people buy from people. Like there's so many creators that in my head right now, if they drop something, I would buy. Not even because I want the product, just because I want to support. I just like them, and I really love what they've done, and I appreciate the value that they've provided to me for free. So it's like, shit, if you drop a hoodie, I'm gonna buy the hoodie just to show support.
Right. Yeah. And it's like that's where you get those lifetime customers too, because they resonate with the brand and the creator of it the most.
Yeah.
It's like that's where you get the Elon Musks, right? He blew his stuff up because Elon's Elon at the end of the day. Right. So, when you embody that principle, it really does change everything. It makes life so much easier. And it's like, don't do it from a place of I'm going to give so I can get. It's like I genuinely like to share. That's why you have to like what you're sharing and the content you put out. You have to be interested in it. One, because like you have to want to give it, right? And that's how you put the value into it that creates that desire to give back. And it's like, I don't try and get from my audience. I just get from my audience and receive from them because I'm giving to them something I care about and I know will help them. That's literally it.
Totally. And when you're scaling that quickly and you're doing, it's a hard balance for me from an outsider's perspective to understand what to delegate versus what to do yourself, especially when you're just on this e-com world by yourself and it's this new thing. How'd you know for yourself what was the things I should be doing? What are the things like uniquely I'm capable of doing versus the things that I should pass on?
That's a great question, dude. So many people should ask that because I know so many entrepreneurs stress doing everything. And I was there too. For me, it was what are the things that energize me? What are the things that are most natural to me? People be like, follow your passions. I think follow what's natural, right? Like, what are you doing anyway? I was naturally just sharing random facts and shit with people. I was randomly just naturally helping people get in shape or sharing self-improvement advice, giving advice in general. And so it's like, that was TikTok and all that was a medium for me to do that. And it was natural, right? So it's like, for me, the content, making the products, the branding, the copywriting, that's stuff that's natural to me in general, like the communication, doing all the grunt work, the accounting, all that stuff. It's like, it's good to know, but I can't stand it, bro. It's just, it's not me. It's not what I like to do. And it takes me out of my flow. So it's like, what gets you in that flow? Be very strict about staying in that. And that's where you start to delegate out. So it's like, I'd start first with the thing that's dragging you down the most and the thing that's taking the most amount of time for you that is not a high leverage activity. Those are the two things that I would get. So it's like what you really like cannot stand and one that's like not high leverage and takes a lot of time, right? Get those two in there so you can at least get yourself in the mental space for some clarity and to get back into your creative zone. And yeah, that's what I would say for sure.
It's an interesting thing because so often, for some reason, we have this like mindset behind success as equaling hard work and
Hmm.
like inputs equal outputs, and we don't think about leverage and using other people. Whereas when you look at like so many people who are absolutely killing it, it's like they don't work that many hours in the day because they are so leveraged and they know what the tasks are that only they can uniquely do, and then they just focus on those.
Yeah, I mean, if hard work got you rich, then lawn care workers and
Yeah.
people working in factories would be the richest people on earth. But it's like
Yep.
it's leverage thinking. At the end of the day, is what attracts that money. Because there's 4 levels of value creation. I learned this from Myron Golden. He's someone I
Hmm.
recommend you listen to, bro. I love Myron.
Sweet.
Dude's a savage. But there's 4 levels of wealth, right? So at the bottom is implementation. So that's like the people doing it, right?
Hmm.
And there's not much thinking going on. It's just like put this in, move on to the next. Above that is management, right? So being able to manage those people. So it's like implementation, you're probably capped at like 50K a year, right? Management, you get up to like 100, I'd say. It's probably a good range, a little high. But then above that is communication,
Hmm.
right? So communication's like base levels like sales, right? So you get like 100K in there, and then it can get up to 100 million, right? That's where you have actors and
Mm.
actresses and politicians, right? That's communication leverage. But the one that's at the top is imagination, right? So that's where you can come up with products like Steve Jobs.
Hmm.
You can create the films, right? You don't have to just communicate in it. And so it's like when you combine, because imagination is like this esoteric concept, right? You can't really do anything with it unless you bring it down to earth. And so you have to take imagination, you have to put it in with communication. You have to be able to communicate those ideas. And when you can do that together, when you can create and communicate, good night, you're done.
Ooh,
And
game
it's
changer.
like create, communicate, contribute. Boom.
Damn, that's a secret sauce right there.
That's some sauce. And
That's
it's
some
like it's all
sauce.
out there too,
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it's the truth though. It's beautiful. It's like so well put because it perfectly summarizes it. And
Appreciate it.
we usually don't think about things in that light. But Mason, what haven't we talked about today that you think is fundamental to either you or to just this world of e-com and business in general?
I think too many guys focus on these external creations and what they're doing instead of who they're being,
Mm.
right? So it's like, how much are you investing back into yourself? How much are you allowing yourself to experience life and the growth that will allow you to get more of what you're trying to get in the first place and what you're holding on to? Like I see so many guys hoarding money and thinking that chasing the dough is like everything, right? And it's like you need to allow that money to flow constantly. That's why it's called currency, right? It has a current, right? It's like it's all in the language. It tells you what to do with it,
Yep.
right? And so you have to let that cash flow, right? And so go travel the world, go invest in your health, like put back in yourself, because your level of external creation and business and all that stuff is only going to cap out at your level of personal development.
Hmm.
That's it. If you don't have the spiritual wealth or the awareness to get it past a certain point, it can't. That's it.
Beautiful, bro. It's so well said, and especially with the health stuff. Like, if you don't have health, all you want is health. Doesn't matter
Yeah,
how much money you have.
that's it.
So
You go to your end of
prioritize
your
your
life and you're
blessings.
trying to buy
Yeah,
it all back.
yeah, yep. It's an interesting thing. We have such a desire to just hoard the wealth instead of actually experiencing the fruits of that labor to begin with.
For sure. And it's like you can still synergize it so it
It's
it
both.
doesn't take away, It's
Yeah.
like I travel free everywhere because of points.
True.
It's like I got like 2.3 million points, bro. Like I have trouble figuring out what to even do with them. And then it's like there's ways out there when you learn you can turn those points into more points. So it's like there's so many ways to do these things you want to do, and it's like the only thing holding you back is in your mind. That's
Hmm.
it.
So well said, brother. And I think it's a beautiful place to bring this conversation full circle.
Yeah.
Mason, thank you so much for this one today. I had so much fun recording this one. It was incredible to hear about your experiences and both the ecom stuff and especially in the ayahuasca stuff. It was beautiful to hear.
It's amazing. Yeah, this is one of my favorite podcasts I've been on, so it's a great job.
I appreciate it. Vice versa. Feelings mutual. Appreciate you.
Let's go. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.